Morning, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on this Holy Saturday, halfway through the Easter weekend. Hoping for those of you guys who've been really busy and running around and haven't had much of a staycation that you're going to have a bit of a chance to have a bit of a break this weekend and eat some Easter eggs if you manage to get some and get some good R&R. So our text this morning is Matthew 26 and it reads from verse 57. It says, "As evening approached, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who had himself become a disciple of Jesus. Going to Pilate, he asked for Jesus' body, and Pilate ordered that it be given him. Joseph took the body, wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and placed it in his own new tomb that he had cut out of the rock. He rolled a big stone in front of the entrance to the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were sitting there opposite the tomb." And so I'd like to just give us a little bit of context and then pull one or 2 points. I don't want to take too much of our time this morning. But the thing is this, Joseph was a disciple of Jesus. And so that's really important. I know it says that, but for us to understand it. So he's a disciple of Jesus, which means he'd heard all of Jesus's claims and he'd heard all of Jesus's promises. So this is a guy this wasn't just a casual observer. This scripture says he was one of Jesus's disciples. Not only was he one of Jesus' disciples, but he was also a man of influence. We know that because he went to Pilate and asked for the body, and Pilate gave him the body. Now, Pilate wouldn't have just given the body of this Jewish rebel who called himself the king of the Jews, this troublemaker, to just anyone. Joseph's word obviously held weight. And so when he asked for Jesus' body, he was given it. And he was also a rich man. So he was a man of means. And we see, the scripture says he was rich, but also he had his own tomb carved out of the rock and all sorts of stuff. This was a guy who was evidently well off and self-made. And this morning I'd like to just talk quickly around this one topic of sticking the course. Because if you think about it, you've got this guy who's a man of influence in the community. He's a rich guy, he's got everything he needs. But at the same time, he's a disciple of Jesus. And he's just lived through the death of Jesus on the cross. Everything Jesus said, all those promises, everything. Like, what now? But he said, he was the king of the Jews. He said that he was going to rescue us. He said he was going to save us. And all of a sudden, Jesus is dead. And I think sometimes for us as people as well, we can feel like God has made us a promise, or we've walked with Jesus as his disciples, and he's spoken specific things to us. And we've held on to those things. They've really been amazing for us in tough moments. And then it can feel like towards the end of whatever the time period is, like God didn't come through. And maybe it can feel like the dream that Jesus gave us died. If we think about where the country's at a little bit at the moment, I think about all the guys who started off this year with business going, this year's going to be different. 2020 is going to be 20 plenty, all that stuff. Like, where are those oaks now? What happened to those dreams? What about our marriages? Maybe when you look at your marriage, you think to yourself, this wasn't what I dreamed about. This wasn't this isn't what I was hoping for. And God's promised me that we're going to have this amazing marriage and whatever, and it doesn't feel like it. Maybe you're single and you are on this lockdown on your own, and you feel like God has promised you something else in your life, and you're looking at your life at the moment and you're going, this isn't what I thought. This isn't how I thought it would pan out. And Joseph was in that same place. But I'll tell you something Joseph did. He didn't just walk away. He went and he asked for Jesus' body, and he wrapped it in that linen cloth, and he kept it. And I know it's a bit of a loose analogy, but God's promises are God's promises and are always true. His timing isn't always the same as ours. And what I mean by that is, this was Saturday, but Sunday was coming. Joseph wasn't to know that, but Sunday was coming. And can I say this for some of us? Please don't throw the promises of God by the wayside. Please don't just walk away from them. Take those promises and treasure them like Joseph did. Keep them, because what God has said is true. And keep them, because in its time, if you think about it, you might be on the Saturday of the season that you're in, but Sunday's coming. And that dream is going to come, that promise is going to come to life. If you think about this for Joseph, if he hadn't done that, if he hadn't taken Jesus' body for himself, right? It was from his tomb that the stone was rolled away and Jesus rose. Joseph's tomb. It was at his tomb where the two angels met with the two Marys and Joanna. It was at his tomb where Mary, who was weeping, turned and saw the resurrected Jesus. It was to his tomb that the disciples ran to find it empty. And it was his tomb that Christians for 2,000 years were celebrated as being empty. Can I say this? For some of us with our businesses, it could be our marriages, it could be relationships, whatever the thing is that God has promised us, and it's looking at the moment like it's dead. Can I say this? Don't pack it in, because Sunday's coming, friends. And in that Sunday, we're going to look, and not only will it be a sign to ourselves, but it'll be a sign to others that look at this. Look what God can do in the life of people. Look how we can take things that don't look alive. He can take things that look dead and raise them to life again. So I hope that's encouraging for you. Looking forward to all hanging with you guys tomorrow online. We're trying something a little bit different in the meeting. But we'll see you on YouTube for the video and then for some live communion after that.